is talking about converting fractions and decimals and rounding. We need to remember our place value system when we round. So let's see how we do with the rounding the first couple numbers. So rounding, there's a couple strategies we use. The first one is, if we want to round to, let's say the first one says integer, we would underline where the first integer is. Now that's the ones place, so that's going to be the number right before the decimal place. Then what you do is you're going to circle the number after it. Okay, the number after it's a 5. Now, the number after the one you want to round is the number that tells you whether or not you're going to round it. If it's a 5 or bigger, it makes you add 1 to the number in front. If it is not 5 or bigger, then you do nothing to it. Okay, you just cut off all the other numbers. So this one's a 5, it's going to make that 3, add 1 to it. So what do I get? 24, good, that's the nearest integer. Now we're going to look at the next one, 10th. 10th, okay, that means the first decimal place. I'm going to look at the number after the first decimal place. Does the 6 make it add 1 or does it stay the same? It adds 1. So I'm going to add 1 there and I'm going to get 23.6. Well, let's take a look at C. C is asking for 100th. So we erase what we've got here. That's why we work in pencil. And I underline now the 100th. That's my second decimal place. I circle the third one. What does that 6 make the first 6 do? We add 1. Good. It turns to a 7. Whoops, we add 1, not 7. So we should get 23.57 thousandth. That's our third place. Now, how do we know? How do I know automatically it's the third place or the second place or the first place? How do I know? Yeah. That's exactly right, dear. You're looking at how many zeros would be on the bottom of it. So if I said I'm running to 1,000th, that means there would be 3 zeros on the bottom. That means 1, 2, 3. That's that digit right there. So I would have 3 zeros in the bottom. 3 zeros in the bottom means it's the third number after the decimal. Okay, does that make sense? If it's tens, tens has 1, or tenths, pardon me, THS, tenths. If you have 1 0, that's 1 digit after the decimal you're rounding. Hundredths, you've got 2 decimal or 2 zeros, 2 decimal places after. Okay? So we're doing now thousandths. So that means there's 3 digits after the decimal. So that means I'm looking at the 6. I'm going to look at the 8 right after. What does that 8 tell the 6 to do? He adds 1. Good. So we're going to get 23.567. Okay? Any questions with that one? Pretty good so far? Okay, so with number 2, we have negative numbers. It doesn't change any of the rules. So integer is whole number, or sorry, it's not whole number. It's just the first number after or before the decimal. So you look at the 8. What does it tell the 7 to do? Round up. Good. So 8 negative 18. 10th. That means there's 1 0 on the bottom. That means it's the first decimal place. So you got an 8 at the end of that guy. What's he telling the other 8 to do? Add 1. Round up. So negative 17.9. 100th. So we're looking at the second decimal place because 2 zeros in the bottom for 100. I mean, I'm looking at the second number after the decimal. Okay, that's the one I want to round. And he's got another 8 after him. What does he tell the other 8 to do? Round up. Okay. Negative 17.89. What do you think the next one's going to look like?
17.889.
Good. Negative 17.889.
The last number will always be 1 ahead of the other. So
If you're rounding, yes, absolutely. Okay, let's check and see how you did on the chart. You had some time to work on the chart. Do you need a couple more minutes to finish the chart?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're going to take it up together. So nearest integer, that means which one? It means you look at the digit after the decimal, and what's it going to make the guy after the decimal do? So right now I've got a 9. What's it going to make the 7 do? It's going to round up. It's going to become 8. So this is going to be rounded to 28. Okay? We're going to do nearest integer of all of them so that we know what we're doing for integers. So we look at the 0. If we look at the 0, what's it making that negative 3 do? It's making it stay the same. It won't make it do anything. So we just get -3. On the next one, I have a 0.87, etc. What does that 8 tell the 0 to do? Round up to a 1. Good. 4.99999. It's going to round up to a 5. Good. 54.1 negative. What am I going to do? Stays the same. Good. Now let's look at the 10th place. Okay, we're going to look at the 10th for all of them. That means 10th means the first one, because we're looking at the bottom number would be a 10 with 1 0, which means we're looking at the first decimal place. So what does that 2 make the 9 do? Nothing. It stays the same. So we have 27.9. Now listen carefully. If it says 10th and something rounds up to an integer or whole number, and it says 10th, you must show that decimal 0. How come? Because it's part of the place value system. If it wants it to be rounded to that, it wants to see that digit. And even if it's a 0, it wants to see it. So on the next one here, the 0 needs to round. Does it round up or does it stay the same? It rounds up. So we get -3.1. Let's take a look at the third one here. 0.879. What does that 7 make the 8 do? He goes up, so we get 0.9. All right, what does that 9 make the other 9 do? It makes it round up. This is that situation I was telling you. It's going to make it go to a 10. So that means that this one becomes a 0, and its 10 has to add to the 4 over there, the 1. So we're going to get 5.0. Do you have to show the 0 after? Yes, because it's asking for 10th place. So it says show that decimal even if it's a 0. Okay? That means it was rounded if you're showing that decimal place. On the next one, what does that 4 tell the 1 to do? Stays the same. So we get -54.1. Okay. Now we're doing 100. 100. So we look at the second place. What does that third number tell the second place to do? Round up 1 on the first one. So we get 27.93. On the second example, what does that 2 tell the 5 to do? Stays the same. So we get -3.05. On the third example, I have a 9 after my 7. What does the 9 tell the 7 to do? Round up to an 8. So I get 0.88. On the next one, the same thing's going to happen on this one because I have lots of 9s. So if I look at that second 9, the third 9 is going to make the second 9 go to a 10. So I put a 0 down. Then I add the 1 to the other 9, which makes 10. So I have another 0. So I have to add the other 1 from that 10 to the 4. So I'm going to get 5.00. I have to show both those zeros after. So I want to show 100th place. So you have to show those 2 decimals. Over here, what does that 5 tell the 4 to do? He tells that 4 to round up 1. So we're going to get -54.15. Okay, check your work so far. Now we're on the last column. 100. So on the 100th, now we're checking the third decimal place. So we look at the fourth decimal place after it. So my third one's a 9. What does that 5 tell the 9 to do? It rounds up, and it rounds up to a 0 to 10. So that other one's going to go to the 2. So we're going to get 27.930. I must show that 0 at the end. Okay, because that 0 says, oh, there was a 9 there that rounded that 2 up to a 3. That's what that's telling us. Over here, we've got a 2, and we have a 9 after it. What does the 9 tell the 2 to do? Round up. So we get -3.053. Okay, that 2 becomes a 3. On the next one, I look at the 9, and then I look at the 3 right after him. What does the 3 tell the 9 to do? Tells him to stay the same, don't change. So we get 0.879. Finished. Well, let's look at the very last one. It's going to be the exact same thing as we did the last one. We're just going to have how many zeros at the end now? 3. Good. 5.000. And on the bottom one, I have a 5 I want to round, so I look at the 3 right after it. What does that 3 tell the 5 to do? Tells them to stay the same. So I have a negative 54.145. Okay, check your work. All right, this one here is saying write as we read it. Okay, well, we're going to read the number 12.2 as 12 and 2/10. So that would be 12 and 2 over 10. Okay, now we have to put it to a reduced fraction. Why is it 2 over 10? Who knows?
It's 2 and it's the 10th spot.
Okay, it's the 10th spot. Another way we can look at that. How do we know it's the 10th spot?
Because out of 10.
Okay, because it's out of 10. How many zeros are in the number 10?
1.
1 0. And how many numbers are after the decimal?
0.
1 number after the decimal, the 2. Okay, so that means it's going to be 1 0 on the bottom, so it's 2 over 10. Now, 2 over 10 we know is not lowest, is it? No, that can go lower. What can 2 over 10 become? 1 over 5. So we could say that's 12 and 1 over 5. Now I've got to change that to an improper fraction. Okay, you have to change it to an improper fraction when you reduce it. So you're going to take the side times the bottom to give you 60 plus the 1. So you're 61 over 5. That's your final answer. It can't go any lower. The next one, I have 2 digits after the decimal, so what's going to be my bottom number for my fraction? 100, because we want two zeros. So negative 35 and 86 and the 100 on the bottom, we want 2 zeros. Now 86 over 100, we can reduce that. How much can 86 over 100 divide by? Well, let's start small. Let's try 2. So if we divide them by 2, 86 divided by 2 is 43. 100 divided by 2 is 50. Will 43 over 50 go lower? No, it doesn't. So our answer is negative 35 and 43 over 50. Okay, so now we've got to change that to an improper fraction. Okay, so you're going to notice we're going to get a really big negative number on top, 1793, and our bottom, the 50, stays the same. Will it go any lower? No, this one does not. Okay, let's take a look at our third example here. How many digits are after the decimal? 3 digits are after the decimal, the 2, the 4, and the 4. So how many zeros will be on the bottom? 3, so we're in the thousandth. So I get 124 and 244 over 1,000. Now what do you think 244 over 1,000 divides by? Well, let's start with 2. You always start with 2. Okay, so divide the top and the bottom both by 2 and see what we get. $124, something over 500. What's our top number? 122. Good. Will our top number go lower again?
Yes.
Yes, it will. We can divide them again by 2. And what do we get? 61 over 250. Good. So again, the number 124 is in front. I just write really big. Okay, now we got to change that number to an improper fraction. It's going to be huge. So you're going to take the 124 times the 250 plus the 61. Okay, I just write really big. I'm on the bottom one here, but we're still going in here. So what are we going to get? Something over 250.
31,061.
Good job. 31,061. Okay, check your work on that. Last 3 examples. There are 2 digits after the decimal, which means I'm going to have 2 zeros in the bottom. So I'm going to have 45 over 100. If it ends in a 5, what number do I always divide by first? 5. Good. So I can divide both of those by 5. Oopsie. That's kind of funny. So divide by 5. And I'm going to get 9 over 20. Good. Lowest terms, I cannot go any lower. Let's look at the third one. It's negative, so it stays negative. 275, how many digits after the decimal? 3, so I have 3 zeros in the bottom. 275 on top. Again, it ends in a 5, so I'm going to divide the top and bottom both by 5. All right, what do you get when you divide the top and bottom both by 5? 55 over 200, and that's negative. And again, it can go lower again. You can divide both of those by 5 again. And what are we going to get? Good, negative 11 over 40, and that's as low as it goes.
So you could divide it by 10 as well, if you want.
You could have divided by 10. No, it won't divide by 10, dear, because it doesn't end in a 0.
Okay.
So you have to divide by 5 twice. The next one has 2 digits after the decimal, which means they're going to be over 100 with 2 zeros. So negative 28 and 78 over 100. Now 78 over 100 can divide by 2. What am I going to get when I divide by 2? Good. Negative 28 and 39 over 50. Good. Now change this guy to an improper. 28 times 50 plus 39. 1439 over 50. Did you notice I ignored my negative sign? Now put your negative sign on the answer again. Okay, you put it on last. Okay. That's low as it goes. Yeah, you betcha. It won't go any lower. Let's take a look at the last chart we have. Now we're going to be going back and forth from decimals to fractions, okay? If something's in a fraction first, how do we change a fraction to a decimal? It's the easiest thing we've done.
Solve it.
Well, what do you mean by solve it? What do I actually do? Kaylee? You divide, exactly. You take top, divide by bottom. So that's exactly what we're going to do over here. We're going to go top, divide by bottom. So if I take 2 divide by 5, I'm going to get 0.4. Now it's the nearest 10. Well, is there any digits after the 4? No, so it's already in the 10. So 0.4 is the nearest 10. The next one, the way we do mixed numbers is like this. The whole number, or the integer on the left, is the whole number in front of the decimal. So I write 2 and then the decimal. Now I take 3 and divide by 8. When you take 3 and divide by 8, you're going to get 375. So the 375 goes after the decimal. Okay? Now, we got to put that 375 rounded to a tenth. So if I'm rounding to a tenth, I'm going to look at the 3, and what does the 7 tell the 3 to do? It's going to round up. We're going to add 1 to the 3. So we're going to get 2.4. The next one, take 14 divided by 19. You're going to notice it's a huge run-on decimal that goes on forever. We're going to write 4 of the decimal places, okay? So negative 0.736, and then an 8. Okay. And then we're going to put dot, dot, dot. When you put those 3 dots at the end, that means it's a run-on decimal. Okay. So we round that guy to the 10th. That means we look at the 3. What does that 3 tell the 7 to do? He tells them to stay the same. So I get negative 0.7 rounded to the 10th. Okay. Try the last 2 on your own. Okay, let's check and see if you remembered what happens if you have a 9 on the bottom of a fraction. Do you remember what happens if you have a 9 on the bottom of a fraction? It means the number on top is repeating. Good. So this is going to be negative 99.8 repeating. Okay, that's what we get for that. Whenever our bottom number is a 9, or a set of 9s. So if you look at the one below it, there's 2 9s. So that means this guy's going to have, who's repeating on the bottom one? The 8 and the 9 repeat. So we're going to write 8, 9 with a line on top. That means it repeats. Okay? Now let's round both of those. When we round them, that just means we have lots of 8s at the end of this one. So what does that second 8 tell the first 8 to do? to round up to a 9. Good. So this will give us negative 99.9. And look at the other one here. What does that 9 tell the 8 to do? Round to a 9. Good. 0.9. Okay, check your work. This concludes 2.9 converting fractions and rounding decimals.